Happy Thursday, friends. It's a very happy Thursday in my house. It's, aside from it being a ThoughtFlow Thursday, it's also my swoopy Glenn's birthday, so it's a really good day. I am gonna take a moment to invite some friends to come and play. The cat has a lot to say about ThoughtFlow this evening, as do I, of course. Hello.
Happy birthday, Shroopy.
I know, it's the Shroop's birthday. Who'd have thunk? He's even still alive. He's eating in the kitchen, like he's having a good time. It was not a murder's birthday. I find the month of December to be difficult, so I can't say that I make his birthdays easy all the time.
I think it is. Oh, nope, we missed the kid's Papu's name's day. Oopsie.
Oh, uh-oh.
All hell was breaking loose.
Yeah, you've been in the middle of a tornado, a hurricane. My tail is showing. Yes, sometimes I let it out, but only
And
for you, Chuck.
our school district has not canceled or moved to virtual in light of the TikTok shenanigans.
Yeah, you might want to go ahead and share that because I don't know that everybody or people who don't have kids would know about it thus far.
So my kids have been telling me that they have been getting messages from TikTok that say, I took the picture because I sent it to the parent squad. So it basically says, stay safe on Friday, December 17th, guys. There are rumors going around that there will be active shooters at all American or USA schools. Nobody believes me, but this could end up being bad. So I wanted to spread the word. Please try to stay home for your safety. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Tammy. We're talking about the latest American trauma-inducing that's nationwide.
And they're excuse me, they're all different kind of amalgamations, but basically of the same thing. And it's been going on all day. I had one kid sick and I had another kid home for other
reasons,
crazy poop. But and so this is for tomorrow. And so that's what Misty was saying. Her school district, they've moved to virtual.
Not mine, my friend's district.
Oh, your friend's
mine
district.
hasn't made a statement yet. Listen, these people are confused all the time, so I have no idea. But Harmony Gateway across the way from us, they're virtual tomorrow because of the threat.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, Harmony, that's a link to what we are discussing. And yeah, it's like, do we really need to end the year this way? Hoax or not, there are too many. Remember when people used to do like really crazy things and then it wouldn't happen for a really long time, or something similar wouldn't happen for a really long time because, the next person in line was like, oh no, I can't do that because it just happened. And like, it's too soon, it's too much. Now people are just like, oh dang, they were before me.
Yes, let me get out there. Let me batter. I agree with you, April. It is outrageous, and yeah, I have so much to say about that.
Well, it should be turned, like, this is one of those times where you would go, okay, social media is being used to intentionally incite.
Period. And there should be a greater penalty for anybody that's caught doing such shenanigans.
Turn it off. Isn't there an off switch for TikTok? Just off.
Like at the main server, just like get rid of all of it. Yeah, wouldn't that be?
But at what point is it is the access complicit?
Well, and it goes to the whole free speech argument across the board, right? Does somebody have a right to make a threat if it's not credible, if it's a joke, if it's a we need to start being a little bit smarter with, how we manage these situations. People can't be allowed to go on doing these things, considering the mayhem that it causes. Now you've got parents across the country who have to figure out what they're going to do with their kids tomorrow because schools are shutting down in light of this threat. And considering what happened in Michigan last week, can you blame them? Not at all.
Well, and it's also just so April is saying social media is also being used for the flash mob burglaries. And it's like, again, so we have this conversation. Why is hate speech called hate speech when we talk about freedom of speech? But why is hate speech called hate speech? Because it does something very specific.
And dislike speech doesn't have the same ring.
I don't know, speech, kind of. So it's that, we're so wrapped up in our freedoms that our freedoms should just run over everybody else, right? It just should leave tire tracks on other people. And it's like, that's why hate speech has its own label.
Well, and you're onto something here too. Think about it. When I forgot the name of the publication, The Voice, and all of those other, big city publications were busted because they were very complicit in human trafficking and the sex trade. Many of those were shut down. It took a long, long time, but it happened.
Is this like the back pages?
Yes,
Is this like Craigslist?
Yes.
Because I know that Craigslist, because I guess everybody has a Craigslist, but I feel like everybody and their mama in Chicago was using Craigslist, and Craigslist was hugely complicit in that.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
Yep.
And we had another paper. I'm not in the city of Chicago anymore. Certainly if someone on here is in the city proper, we used to have a magazine called The Reader. And it was free. And they had a theater section. They had kind of pop culture-y articles. And they would have kind of like articles more neighborhood, but nevertheless not any less, probably even more interesting. But that didn't necessarily, so it's called The Reader. But they had a back page, and that back page is probably why The Reader was free. Back page.
They have it.
Yeah, hate speech has a name for a reason, and it is important to distinguish. And you sort of go, okay, all of this stuff. So Devious Licks was running rampant, and if I'll refamiliarize you with Devious Licks was again on TikTok.
I've heard of that.
Devious Licks, they were challenges for school-aged kids. So one of the challenges was soap the bathroom floors. Mm. So you would go into a school bathroom and the entire floor, and I think walls and mirrors were just covered in that hand soap. I know people in the city of Chicago, y'all got no soap in your bathrooms. But no, I mean, but like literally to the point where it was hazardous because you weren't expecting it. So you'd walk in and it was literally, so that was one. Another one had something to do with dismantling aspects of the bathroom. So one time, one of the kids reported that one of the walls that separated the stalls from the urinals, they took the whole wall out, which I don't even understand how hey, Aaron. And then the Devious Licks that was supposed to be in October, our high school just jumped on top of it really quick because it was, hey, Sissy, it was to smack a teacher on the butt. And so our high school was like, let's be clear, this is sexual assault and the appropriate measures will be taken. But these were challenges on TikTok that were, the challengees or the participants were middle school and high school students. So this was running roughshod. I mean, this this was all over our middle school, amongst other things, but this was all over our middle school to the point where they all but shut the bathrooms down, and there was like some special protocol to go to the bathroom.
Hi, Sarah.
So
Thing. Like, what makes this a thing? Okay, so I understand that children are very easily influenced and, peer pressure, yada, yada. I totally get it. But let me tell you something, and this is not, looking back in the rearview mirror. I'm being straight up honest with you. If somebody said, hey, let's do this, and this was like 13-year-old Misty, the very first image I would see in my mind is Doris and Rich Cauthen. And they'd be giving me that. I would see Doris and Rich, and I was like,
Doris and Rich. Who's Doris and
that
Rich? And I was like,
Mom and Dad.
Doris and Rich.
Doris and Rich Cauthen, the parents of mine who were very, very clear about the fact that if I stepped too far out of line, no one would find my body, and lots of luck. And you hope that they were joking.
Posters. Have you seen this?
Right on the milk carton. Yeah, I hope they were joking, but I was never so sure. Like, I was not a child that was smacked, beaten, shaken, anything like that. Because once that eye looked at me, the head turned, the head cocked, and the eye, like the power of the eye. No. So I don't care who it was. I don't care if they said they were going to bully me, they were going to flush me down the toilet, they were going to do whatever to me. Nothing could be worse than what Doris and Rich would do to me with that eye if I went sideways. So I guess my point is have these things gotten so pervasive because we've lost as parents the power or the control, because we all want to be besties with our kids. Hell to the no. But is it because we've given away that authority because we want to be buddies? Is it because, is social media so powerful that people aren't afraid of their parents anymore? That wouldn't have worked for me. If my mother told me today, you're acting like an ass on social media, I'd be like, Mom said I need to chill out for a minute.
I think that there are a lot of things. I think that there are. I think that people want to be. I think that people want to be friends with their kids. They want to be cool. They want to be in the know. I think that there's a big witches brew, right? There are people who they have raised entitled kids. They have raised kids who don't believe that there should be consequences for their actions. What do you do when there are no consequences for your actions? It inflates. You keep going. What can I do now? Yes, April. I personally think it's because we can't hit our kids anymore.
I was afraid of my mother, and it kept me in line.
I lived with my grandmother for a time, and I outside of getting the Holy Ghost in church on Sundays, I never heard my grandmother scream. And maybe it's because she has 6 boys and 3 girls, and those 6 boys just she got it all out with them. But I understood that whatever shenanigans I might think to partake in, I was going to respect her. Mm-hmm. This wasn't a question. I wasn't telling my mom or my parent or whoever was in charge of me at any given time. I wasn't telling them, this is when I'm leaving. I might not be back. We're talking about parents. We all have heard the stories of parents who are having high school parties with booze. We've heard this. Yeah. We've heard parents say, I'd rather it be in my house. Huh?
I take all the keys, really, I do.
But how about, this is not a bargaining chip. So if by high school... How
about you're a minor? It doesn't even have to be my rule. This is the law of the land.
Right. but it's also, if that's your bargaining chip in high school, that means that started a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the best part. There are kids who are going to those parties. So there are other kids whose there are other kids whose parents who know these parents and have said, yes, we're serving the kids alcohol. How do you even formulate that word? How do you even say that? But then there are other parents who knowingly go, oh, okay, and send their kids to that party. Now, we're all not dumb and naive. It is not to think that, yes, I went to high school parties where the kids had older siblings and they bought booze. But this was not their parents like going, okay,
Supplying it.
sweetie, right. Okay, sweetie, I'm heading out to the Bennies. Yeah, text me the beer
Would
and
you
the
like
booze you
some
want.
White Claw, Chip?
Are you doing Jello shots this time? I mean, you know what
No,
I mean?
not
Like,
that ever.
like, so it's one thing for it to be snuck in, but it's something else to go unabashedly and know that there is going to be booze there. And then not only is it the parents who said, yes, we're going on a beer run, but other parents go, oh, okay, yeah, little Johnny's having a party and they're serving booze. Oh, okay, yeah.
Or don't ask at all. Like
And
the first
right.
Harrison says, I'm going to a party. I'm like, is there going to be alcohol there? And then I wait. If the answer takes a minute, I wait another second. He's like, yeah, I'm not going. But honestly, that's kind of joking. He's like, no, Mom. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying, if you get into a situation where you go to a party and there's liquor there, you're not staying. You understand that if I find out from the police or other nefarious sources that you are staying and hanging out at a party where there's alcohol, I may not even handle it. I may tell your Mimi. And he's like, no. And we don't even argue about it because he knows better. I'm not saying he's a saint, but I'm saying that he's not going to be stupid.
And on the other side of that,
Hi, Brian.
so when my daughter when she was still living with, and she had to be about 18 or 19. So definitely not like, new high schoolers. I think she'd done at least a year in college. And hey, Brian. And so I said to her, well, actually, my ex-husband and I, we had said to her, you get out of jail. You get a 911 call, because the other side of that is I can't have you be at a party, because if you're 18, 19 years old, you're going to be around 20 and 21-year-olds. And
Right.
that's just real and that's just honest. And it's like, but I can't have you be in a space where you feel in danger or you feel like you can't figure out how to get home. This was like, think about it, like 8 to 10 years ago, Uber and Lyft were still kind of questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I would rather you just call us, no questions asked, we will come and get you. Because if you drove there with your friend who's now sloshed on the sofa, that's no good. So we do that as well. We did take a friend of hers from school who was in the city with no money. I'm like, who are these kids? No money, got super drunk, got kicked out of the other friend's parents' house because of something that she did. She did something, I think she got sick or she just couldn't handle her alcohol, and the mom just decided she didn't want her there. And so they concocted this whole story, and she ended up at my house. And I knew what was going on because I knew the other mother. And so I was like, okay, so basically this chick's mom didn't want her in her house anymore. And I'm like, but this chick has no place to go. I'm like, this is not okay. I'm like, I have to think about how I would want this happening. The girl was super sweet. She was so super thankful. But I was like, you kicked a drunk girl out of your house. You're an adult. You kicked a drunk. And I just never wanted my kids to be in that situation. But we have these circumstances where we know that kids are allowed to do whatever, whenever, and however. It's almost sanctioned by their parents.
Right.
And, our town is so small. I mean, it's like we're not the furthest from the high school, but we're certainly not. We're about halfway Like there's people who live a little bit further, but we're only 7 minutes away, you know? And so everybody, I feel like, thinks, and all of the kids, or a good number of kids past a certain age, they drive. And I don't know. You have parents who just don't want to parent. They want kids to make good choices, but the good choices were never instilled. The option, the patterning, the foundation of making good choices. Yes, if you stick your hand in the fire, you will get burned. Oh, you don't know how to turn the stove on. Oh, okay. And you're
Good
30.
choices are taught. And you know,
Yeah.
free range parenting, you know, I mean, and
Sissy.
I mean, Sissy's right though. Like sometimes I remember that this kid would come to the dance studio and there was always this random kid with them. And I was like, that kid's not related to them. Well, you know, the kid would just kind of wander around the neighborhood. And if the kid was at their house during dance time, the mom would bring the kid with them to drop her own kid off at dance, because she didn't want the kid roaming the neighborhood at this hour in the dark in the winter time. Like, there's free range parenting, and then there's just like,
I just sound like chickens pecking.
that's right. Did you mean to have the child? Was it? And I believe that you do give kids a little bit of freedom, but again, if you're not instilling in them the responsibility, what freedom means, then you certainly can't give it to them. One, because it has no value. It's like a pair of socks or a hamburger. Like it could all be the same thing to them. It has no purpose. So
but there's a
not
contrast.
anything that's cherished.
There's a contrast.
Right.
You have to know what it is to not be free, to be free. You have to know what it is to not have freedoms. You know, we didn't grow up in these houses where we had the TV in the living room, right? We just had the TV in the living room. Now, because of technology, every single device is a TV. Every single device is an access to, I mean, like some of the stuff on YouTube, you know, like that now you have to have a kid's YouTube. But every device, it's not just, oh, we're going to go to the living room and watch TV and Dan Rather is on. And, oh, look, it's 11 o'clock, static, white noise. All those stations are gone. Now there are just hundreds of stations, you know, hundreds of ways to access. And then you're seeing celebrity. Who's that dude? You know, I'm horrible with names. Who's that dude who had the concert and the people got mosh pit? They got moshed.
Oh, you mean Travis Scott?
Right.
Bye, April. Thanks for joining us.
But there are people who are defending, like, it's not his fault. He can't control the crowd. And it's like, how we have to be accountable is like, we just don't. Like, people, it's like, it's his concert. It used to be the buck stops here.
But now it's not just that way, though. Now, I mean, we know these are big operators that bring in, it's not like the performer bringing in their own crew all the time anymore. Now it's, you know, sometimes the security is attached to the venue. Sometimes the security, like, everything is messy nowadays. But yes, Sissy, we had to earn our freedom. It was not just like a guarantee because we hit a certain age, we get to fly and be free.
No, and the more you go, because people, again, in the summertime, we've talked about this, people would see my kids all around the neighborhood. Tasha, who's on here, is coming in just a minute, Tasha. Tasha would be like, I just saw one of your kids drive by. I just saw your, but they get it yanked. You have your cell phone. You have your cell phone charged to a certain point. That was a huge argument in our house. Them thinking that the cell phone, it was okay for it to be, like, literally, like they're, you know, freaking Matlock arguing that it was okay for the phone to be at 40% because if something happened, they only needed to run off a couple of texts or maybe make one phone call. And right.
Meanwhile, you're like, for all of the negotiation you're doing, you could have plugged the phone in. Shut up.
And so it's just now, and it's like, it's not up for discussion. It's, they're come down to like 80%. And it's like, because this isn't this, it's not a discussion. Like it's a privilege for you. It gets dark at like 4:30. It's dark outside. My crazy kid is outside trying to ride his bike last night in a freaking wind and rainstorm, like drizzle. But he's like, yeah, I almost got knocked off my bike like 3 times. And I'm like, what? Dude, you're 120 pounds on a good day.
At least he goes outside. My kid, I think when outdoor air touches him, he's afraid he's going to turn into dust. I'm like, can you please? But maybe he's afraid of the wind. I don't know.
But no, I mean, there are definitely consequences, and there are consequences. Tasha was privy to one of the consequences. Like one of my kids didn't do what they were supposed to do, and I guess they thought because we had company that I was going to change my mind, and I turned on the white noise, and he was having like his internal Hulk moment, and then he went away. I was like, but a lot of kids don't have, a lot of the kids just don't have, they don't. Aries just went to the mall for his birthday. It was like 5 of them. And they're all wet behind the ears. They're not even all 14 yet. Because he's middle. There's still a couple more that have to turn 14. So that means they're 13. And they were like, well, he was like, can you just come back and pick us up? And I'm like, oh, so we're all leaving now. I was like, I don't think you understand. You're 14. And you just turned 14. And I'm like, I will keep a respectable distance. And of course I can track him on my phone. But people do that. There were kids younger than them. These guys are at least 8th grade. He at least looks like he could be 15 or 16. There were kids younger than them who were just like it was a normal thing, just in the mall.
Yeah. Don't go roaming our mall lately. It's been kind of a crime scene place. But, I just think back to that even. And, Sissy, we grew up together, obviously, those of you that know us. And we went to the movies all the time. I think it started in about like 6th grade. Our parents would take us, drop us off, and we would go to the movies. And you know what we did? We sat at the movies and we behaved ourselves. We did not get in any trouble. We did not go walking off to other places. None of this happened. You know why? Because we wanted to live.
Right.
We were not going to violate that trust, that relationship that we had with our parents. Because if we did, the punishment would definitely outweigh the crime, and the punishment would be long lasting. We might still be grounded. So it was just nothing that we got involved in. We did not do those things. And when I look at how so many of the kids nowadays don't even have punishments. Oh, yeah? Well, you didn't do whatever it is. I'm going to tell you to do it again. Like, I mean, that's as gritty as the punishments get nowadays. And we see it. We see it societally. It's messy. There you have it, see? You always stayed with your group. Nobody got salted, walked off. Like, we never did any of this because the kidnapping bans, 100% children of the 80s and 90s. Like, this was a thing.
It was a rampant thing. It was actually a true thing.
It was. I mean, then what was that show with John Walsh? And, the
Adam.
Yeah, I mean, no, we weren't messing around with that.
No, but again,
spies everywhere. That's right.
You're talking about consequences for actions. I mean, Kyler's told me about this kid who steals his mom's car. And I'm like, so these are, new baby freshmen. So nobody has their even learner's pin. I'm like, so he steals his mom's car. And I'm like, and he goes, well, she leaves her keys in the same place. And I'm like, oh, she don't care.
It's not important to her. It really isn't.
So that's where we are. That's the new challenge. And of course, all of this is happening under the umbrella of COVID. What are we? COVID 3.7, 5.6.
I'm gonna give it 3.6, but I mean, here we are. It's again overly entitled children become overly entitled adults.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. We've got a guest tonight, guys, as you know, those of you that saw the post earlier. Our favorite.
Harmony, stop.
Maybe she has a spare kid. Oh, damn, Harm. That's a perfect Harmony statement. Maybe, I mean, she does have a spare kid. You know, kid survivor, whatever. And that kid did not outwit, outplay, or outlast. Off you go. But yeah, we like to bring our favorite Dr. Tasha back periodically to keep us well informed of all of the things that are going on with the things, and things COVID related, things just public health related at this point. I will turn to her for anything. So we brought her back tonight. You know why? Because the holidays are right around the corner. People like to lick lampposts and phone poles at the holidays. I mean, Tasha, can we get back to this? Is this time now? Can we go back to like just licking our hands in the store? I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not. Want to bring her up. Uh-oh. There she is. Okay, good. I thought I just threw her out, but I didn't because I'm on best behavior tonight. Yeah, so we're going to get the lowdown dirty on what's going on. How do we stay safe this holiday? What did we do if our children misbehave? Apparently, if we don't have a spare one, it's different rules according to Harmony. So here we go. Oh, uh-oh.
You know, I don't know. You gotta, be safe and selective.
Does this count?
Tasha.
I mean, is this safe? What do you think?
How about this?
Well, you do have some people in grocery stores doing that, so.
Well, and that's why I did it. I was just going to say, are we at the point now where we can use paper products?
Pretty much.
My favorite is just the pulling of the shirt up.
Right.
No, I like this. That's one of my favorites. And I'm like, what are you protecting?
Exactly. I say the same thing every time I see them. So I always carry individually wrapped masks. And I'd be like, oh, here you go. You must have forgotten yours. Here you go. I always carry an extra 2 everywhere I go, just in case. Because, there's always one. There's always one. We've been wearing masks for a full year now or longer. And you just forgot.
Well, I mean, here in Pittsburgh, it's a full-on free-for-all. Like, who needs a mask when you've got pens? I mean, nobody even cares. There's no longer a statewide mask mandate. Yeah, that's right. Use your phone.
Exactly.
Now, to me, it's kind of conspicuous. We're seeing the numbers going up, holidays coming, new variant, and people are going mask naked. What are your thoughts on this as a person that is educating the public on not being a dumbass?
It still amazes me, but I'm not surprised, right? It still amazes me that we have people that are still not vaccinated, right? We're still only at 61% in the United States. And we still have people that, feel that they can't contract it at a time where it's been reported, I think just as of today, 800,000 deaths, right? 800,000 deaths just from COVID related issues or whatever the case may be. And this is by far, in my lifetime, one of the only diseases that has affected almost every person in some way or another. Whether you know somebody that has had it, whether you know somebody that has died from it. I mean, I think everybody almost to the point knows somebody that has died from it.
So let's back up just a second, Tasha, just because in case some of our peoples, they don't know who you are. Can you just give like a little bio of who you are? Because you fancy.
Totally.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I am Tasha, and I am
got it today, sissy.
right. I am actually a pharmacist. I have my doctorate of pharmacy degree. And it's a Pharm.D. And I also have a Master's of Jurisprudence law degree in health law. And I am the manager of pharmacy and chronic disease management for Advocate Aurora Health. And I also teach part-time at the College of DuPage. So that's just me in a small
That's
nutshell.
all.
And she's like this big. So when she's running around taking masks and throwing them in people's faces, I'm like, oh Lord. No, she's awesome. She's very matter of fact. And I just, it's just, yeah, she's completely fire. And the thing of it is that we bring her on because she has like real information.
And not just information from a book. I mean, she is in the field, in the trenches every day.
Right.
And, I think that's really a lot more important, or it should be more powerful than, oh, you know what, I read it on Google one day and then it was on YouTube. And a doctor of veterinary science was telling me about.
Come on, Misty. Everybody knows Google is real. I mean, everything. You have to believe everything on Google.
I mean, I have plenty of degrees from Google. I got my degree in remedial basket weaving from Google. I mean, like, I got mad Google skills. However, I wouldn't count on them to save my life, which is a lot of what people are doing right now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We were having this conversation, and she was like, don't go to that CVS because they're not mixing the vaccination right. She's like, go over to that CVS. And like our friend who was over, he literally looked at her and he was like, wait, hold on. He's like, can you back up? He's like, what do you mean they're not mixing it right? She's like, so, but who thinks of these things? Because you're just thinking, oh, they got some vaccination, they put it in cold storage and they get the syringe. And she's like, no, go to this one because the pharmacist is the one who administers it. And so I was like, oh, yeah, hot damn, who knew? So
yeah, I mean, like, and that's a thing too. It's like you see Trixie Bebop come out, she's like 9, maybe 7, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you this vaccine. And like, I was kind of like, oh, Trixie Bebop, don't put that needle. Like, what are people to do? It's nerve-wracking.
Exactly. I mean, you want to be safe at the same time, but you also want to make sure that, you're getting a vaccine to protect you. You want to make sure that nothing happens after you get the vaccine. You want to make sure they're clean, that they're mixing it right, that they're actually administering it correctly. Like, I mean, I was telling Nikki, I was like, no, they didn't inject it in the right place. And I'm watching them every time I go into the stores as they give these vaccines out to people. And so I'm like, nope, that's not right.
Wait, where's the right place? Did they ask them to drop their pants?
She's like, wait, I got my Band-Aid.
I never had to take my pants down. What do you mean?
And I can only say here, in Illinois where I was at, and I've watched, because I'm at the Walgreens, I'm watching them as they, give the vaccination. I'm over at the regular CVS. I'm at the Target CVS. I'm all over just watching, seeing how they're doing and asking questions. I never tell anybody I'm a pharmacist. I don't just go up to people and be like, oh, I'm a pharmacist, never. So I just ask questions. They'd be like, wow, you know a lot about this. Are you in the healthcare field? And I'm
You're
just
like, no, I Google everything.
Right, exactly. No, I just Googled it. So I just wanted to make sure that you were doing what Google said.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because if not, I mean, the space laser's coming. I'm out. I got to make sure you're doing it right.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
We're sorry, guys. We're sorry. We have to find humor in this. So we're on to this thing. I am still surprised that I'm still hearing people say, oh, kids can get vaccinated.
I mean,
yeah.
And we're like, wow, that kind of happened like
almost 2 months ago.
2 months ago. Yeah. That happened they were definitely pushing it for September. I think it went through in October.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we, so 5 and older pretty much now. you know, people know. It's just that they don't want, you know, they want to have a reason to just not get the vaccine or get vaccinated, because you still have those people that just still are refusing. They have reasons why they don't want to get it. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, it's a year later. Okay, it's a year later now. And they're like, but people have died. Yeah, but people have died from marijuana too, right? But you're still doing that. I mean, I mean, so it's like, I mean, people have died from some, almost everything. But at this point, a lot of the people that have died, in the 800 that have died, and I don't want to sound, you know, light or be light of the situation, a lot of them may have had underlying conditions as well prior to. A lot of them may have been older. And so we all know that as we age, we don't heal the same. We don't, you know, we don't get better as quick as we would have when we were in our prime, you know, when we were like 21, like me. And so, Nikki, what's the problem? What's the problem?
He's rude.
I am not. I'm like, wow, she's a prodigy.
Yes, and when people have died from marijuana because they're lacing it, right? They're lacing it with things. And so fentanyl and things of that nature. And so they're ODing and all sorts of stuff. So
and there was that synthetic marijuana as well that they yeah.
Look at Era like, what?
She's like, dang, I gotta go check my stash.
Nuts.
Yeah. So, you know,
but at the end of the day, people have died from COVID. I think the numbers of COVID death is still higher than the number of people who have been affected by the vaccine.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, and the data is everywhere. I mean, you can look at the data, you can look at it and it'll tell you, oh, you know what? They died because they had this, or it was this, it was that, you know, depending on what it was. It's not just, oh, they were completely healthy and they died after they got the vaccine. There are very few that were completely healthy and died after they got the vaccine. You know, I mean, and if we're looking at it from a global picture, it has been 488 million people so far that has been vaccinated. Not fully, but that have been vaccinated. And of that 488 million, we've had 800,000 deaths. Not to say all just because they got the vaccine. Keep in mind that there may have been some underlying conditions there. And so when you do the math with that, that's like 0.01 or something, or something like that. I mean, that is a very small number compared to the number of people that have gotten it. So do you take your chances and get the vaccine, or do you die? I mean, at this point, those are your two options.
Well, the opposing argument, though, is, can I just wait it out and see if it's more like a cold? Because if I'm healthy, then obviously my body's going to be able to fight it, because I drink milk and I get vitamin D.
Right. And that, you know what? that is exactly what people are saying, which is the reason that we have now gone through alpha, beta, gamma, delta, eta, oeta, all of them, right? And now we're at Omicron.
Well, no, we're only on Omicron because it sounds like a Decepticon from the Transformers. I am determined to believe that they just wanted it to sound extra scary.
Right. So, I mean, now we're here. And the reason for that is because the number of variants that are occurring. And it's because people are not getting vaccinated. And so, is there an end to this? At this point, the way it's looking, it doesn't seem like it. You know, it does not seem like it.
So let me ask this. If you have, I mean, we have all of these variants and they keep more and more variants, a new variant a month, it seems. So does it ever get to a place where the virus is just like, oh, I'm sick and tired of you people, you won't die, and I keep mutating, you're still alive. So, you know, I'm just going to become a basic virus, you know, and basically just like the common cold. Like, how long does it take in the etiology of the virus for something like that to happen?
You know what? We probably will never know because there's always variants because it continues to change. Let's just say, let's not say we got COVID, but Karen got COVID. Let's just say
Karen.
Let's just say Karen got COVID.
And there was no manager for her to reach out to.
Right? Let's just say Karen got COVID. And then she went and, passed it off to Joe, let's say. But Joe was vaccinated. Joe may still be able to, right? Joe is still able to get COVID because we all know that the vaccine is not 100%, right? So Joe may still be able to get COVID, but when COVID went into Joe and before Joe realized he got COVID, Joe was vaccinated. So his body is sending a signal that it's a little bit different. It's here. I notice it. But now Joe is spreading a different variant because he was also vaccinated, right?
Joe, damn you.
It's spreading a different variant, right? Because it goes in and it creates different things and, it comes back out completely different. I always tell people you got to look at it like a tree branch, right? Or a tree. All the branches are different. There is nothing the same on a tree. All the branches are completely different. And that's kind of like what COVID is, and it goes in, you have these different ones, and then they have to continue to research to figure out how we're going to make a vaccine that will fight that variant. The same way we do for flu. We don't get lucky every year with flu because there's so many variants of flu each year. They have to guess which quadrivalent that they're going to put in a flu. That's why some year flu is effective and some years flu is not effective. I think 2 years ago, flu was only like 38% effective.
Yeah.
So because we never know what variant is going to be hitting us for that particular season. So it's very hard to determine. So we probably will never know that.
So hoping to get out and wait until it's magically less virulent is a really dumb idea.
Yep, exactly. Because we'll never get to that point. We'll never be able to. But if we continue to get vaccinated, we're probably able to control it. Maybe we're able to stop it at the Omicron if everybody gets vaccinated. And then they can work on their research to say, okay, this is the variant that we need to now create a vaccine to make sure that it's able to fight Omicron when it comes out.
Right.
So what... can you tell us what the differences are about what is the difference between Omicron? Are the symptoms the same? Is it more deadly? Is it less deadly? Is it about the same? Like, can you give us the deets?
So we have, so because we have so many variants, the only ones that we have really heard a lot about is our regular Alpha, which was the original one. And then we hear a lot about Delta, right? That's the new, that not so new, but newer one. And now we have Omicron. Well, Omicron is more contagious, but the symptoms and the things that you get are less, right? Are less severe than what Delta is giving us right now.
Okay.
So so it's not as it's way more contagious, but your symptoms are less than Delta.
And if you're vaccinated, then they're less still, we hope.
They're still less, right? If you're vaccinated, they're even less, correct.
Okay.
Now our current vaccine, and I know I was just right before I came on, I saw Dr. Fauci and he was talking about how effective was our current, COVID vaccine against Omicron. And because it's so new, it just came to us in December, right? It just came to the US in December. They're still getting their research in regards to, is it effective? Is it not? People have to remember, well, why can't they tell us? Well, this doesn't happen overnight. We have to get people to test, right? To kind of figure that out. We can't just say, oh, it hit the US December 1st. So now we have answers for you December 2nd. No,
I don't understand why they gave up on reading tea leaves, because that was clearly effective in like 0.01% of cases. Why aren't we doing that with this?
Exactly. So that's just not the case. So they're still studying. So I know he just mentioned that it appears that it's about 33% effective against Omicron is what he was saying. But if you get that booster, it pushes your immunity back up, right? So now the booster, just like flu, you get it every year. It's now time for that booster, because for most of us, it's been a year since we've got our vaccine, because yesterday, I think the 15th was the first day that the vaccine came out. So we're at a year now for some people who got their vaccine on the 15th or the 16th or so forth.
And isn't that what happened in Israel then? They all of a sudden went from the most vaccinated to the most sick country, and it was because they were one of the first countries to be fully vaxxed in terms of 70%, whatever.
The protocol at that time.
Yep,
So,
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And people have to remember, we're still learning from these, right? And we do know, like most of our other vaccines, that it wanes over time. That's why they're telling you to get the booster. Just like the flu, it wanes over time.
This is just like getting the flu vaccine every year.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like if you cut yourself and the cut is deep enough, they will say, let's give you another tetanus shot.
That's right.
This is like if you were born in the 70s, actually not a lot of people know this. If you were born in like the early 70s, there was an issue with MMR,
Mm-hmm.
and the efficacy was in question.
Mm-hmm.
And those people should actually get another MMR booster. The only reason I know is because I volunteered at a children's hospital, and they were like, oh, you were born in 71. Your MMR is probably not so valid. And I was like,
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. So this is still what we do.
Still what we do.
This is still what we do.
It hasn't changed at all. But, most people are just saying it's still too new. So what's considered not new at this point? I mean, like,
Do you remember
what
like
is not
the
new
new
to
math
you?
and the new Pepsi? And the new Pepsi died out, but we're still using the new math.
People would have fought against that freaking Common Core math. I wish they would have fought harder. They should have fought against Common Core like they're fighting against this damn vaccination. But so these are all these are all protocols that are in place and have been in place.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't really changed. This is how you vaccinate a community in order to protect them from communicable diseases.
Correct. Yep, exactly. And it hasn't changed, and it's probably not going to change,
So then, I have a question. And, I learned from Google. No, I'm kidding. So we talk about mRNA, and this is supposedly why everybody is worried, because really there's a microchip in it. Just kidding. We talk about mRNA and the fact that, this is a new technology and therefore it's less valid, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying I believe it. This is what people talk about. But do you think that, considering that these mRNA vaccines have a lot less ingredients and all of those other things, that it's a safer way of introducing a vaccine into the body and hopefully having a better response?
I mean, for most of our other vaccines that we've received for our childhood vaccines, we give you live virus, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of times you have that response. You may get chickenpox, you may this, you may that, or whatever the case may be. And in this case, we're not providing you with a live virus, right? It's almost mimicking that particular virus or COVID. So to me, you can't be any safer. And like I've said before on here, SARS is not new. It is not new. Okay. This has been going on a long time. And the longer that we continue to not get vaccinated, or the longer we continue to say it's too new, we're going to be in the same position next year and the year after and every other year as well, too. So.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm no scientist, but from what I understand, the J&J vaccine is built on the same platform, for lack of a better term, as your standard type of vaccination, like your flu vaccination. Whereas the COVID vaccination is built more on this mRNA, this newer 20-year-old plus technology. And we've seen that the J&J vaccine, it's like, oh, you got J&J.
Right.
Now go get the grown-up shot now.
Right.
So
and you've probably seen more deaths and from J&J, as they mentioned, they've had a lot of deaths in regards to thrombocytopenia, which is like a blood clotting, blood disorders that they've had from the J&J vaccine versus, some of the things that we've had from our mRNA vaccines, which was more which they indicated more was, affecting the heart, like inflammation of the heart or things of that nature. But, definitely can be controlled over trying to control a blood disease. It's a little bit harder when you can't clot, right? Versus, I can give you some meds to take down inflammation from around your heart. But if your heart isn't healthy to begin with, or if you're older or things of that nature, sometimes you just succumb to the disease, right? So, and that typically is what has happened or is happening.
Dr. Aaron has a great point here in the chat. She says the delivery platform is going to be used to target all sorts of disease. Are people going to avoid its use to target cancer too? Ugh. Ugh is right, because no, they're not. They're going to be like, oh, I have cancer, please save me. But too new for that. Right.
It's just self-serving. And so to them, they feel like this particular vaccine, I don't care. I'm not trying to, whatever. But if it's dependent on my life and then I want to get it because it's for me, my life, so that's what it is. They don't really care about the whole, everybody else. It's just save me right now when they get to that point in that issue.
Right.
Tasha, can you speak? I asked you this question. So now there's the booster, or the third shot. And so maybe you got 2 Pfizer. Is it advisable to get booster Pfizer or booster Moderna? They work slightly different in terms of how they protect. Am I correct? There's a little bit of difference, but they're also 2 different companies, right? Or should you just stick with Pfizer?
So
or vice versa, right? Or if you did 2 Moderna, should your booster be Moderna, or can you get a Pfizer booster? Pros and cons. Yes.
Right. So there's a couple of things. So first, 3 doses are only really at this point recommended for those who are immunocompromised. So they call it a 3rd dose, right? So then after their 3rd dose, they either may suggest a booster or it may be a 4th dose because they are immunocompromised. We don't know that part yet.
Okay.
Booster doses are for like us that are not immunocompromised, or let me say me, that are not immunocompromised. And so you would get a booster dose, which would complete your series. They have not yet changed it over to the point of saying they would recommend everybody just get a 3rd dose. Are they heading that way? Probably, right? At this point, with the numbers going up the way they are, more than likely, your series is going to be a three-shot series, okay? So it is still recommended that you just get the booster. Healthcare facilities and things of that nature, they're going to be moving towards making sure that you have those 3 boosters. It's probably going to be mandatory. And of course, people are going to be in an uproar again about them telling them that they have to get another shot or a booster. Now, in regards to which vaccine you should get, they always recommend if you can get the vaccine that you received initially, great. If you cannot, both Moderna and Pfizer are mRNA vaccines. They definitely, you can mix those for sure, right? If you got 2 Pfizer, you can get a Moderna if that's all that's available. If you got 2 Moderna, you can get a Pfizer. What they haven't necessarily recommended is with J&J or what they have recommended with J&J is that you either get a Moderna or a Pfizer as your 2nd dose, okay? Because they have done studies to show that the immune response, it jumps up drastically compared to when they were doing tests around just giving J&J. I think with just J&J as a 2nd dose, it only went up maybe 4% versus like 38% or so when they did it with Moderna or Pfizer.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was a big article about that in the New York Times. It was pretty, of course, you know, they used a chart, and I was like,
Yep.
cool, it's pretty. And
Right.
holy
It's
crap,
colorful. All these colors.
I mean, I like it when you put colors on the chart. That's all I'm
Right.
going to say. I might even read the whole thing and figure out what it's talking about if it's colorful.
Right.
But, so now here's my next question.
Mm-hmm.
So, as
I don't know if it's lowering sperm count. I don't know.
I'm not worried about the little swimmers these days.
She's still worried about her whiskers.
Well,
Her tiger DNA.
I'm just saying, if I woke up able to leap like my cat, I wouldn't be too upset. Can we talk about ivermectin for a minute?
Oh my gosh.
You know, so I want to talk about it because, you know, it's 9 out of 10 GOP senators will tell you it's the best thing ever. So
Okay.
what I've
Okay.
Tasha, your poker face is as bad as mine. But here's my question. I actually have two questions. One, I'm not talking about using it prophylactically. I kind of think that's a little bit different. But what about for people with long COVID? I've read a few studies out there that are saying that it may be a good thing for people with long. I mean, there's really no good options for people with long COVID. But I've read that there may be some protocols out there. Do you know if the government sanctioned medical system is doing any work with any of the drugs or the vitamin therapies, etc., supplement therapies to help people with long COVID get over their long COVIDness?
You know, I have not seen that they have. Well, let me go back first to ivermectin. For those who don't know what ivermectin is, it's usually a drug that's used to treat roundworms or parasites in the body, right? How is that helping fight COVID? You know, or as prophylactic to COVID? I mean, they come up with whatever, right? Whatever they'd like to. And so, I mean, I just want to say our healthcare organization stopped it immediately as when doctors were trying to, you know, say, oh, I want to use it. They were immediately like, no, absolutely not. That has not been proven. We're not doing it. If they want to use that and get it, go to another health system, right? So since that originally came out, I kind of haven't been keeping up with what additional studies that they have done for it.
Nanobots.
Or why they would want to even move forward. I'm like, can you know, spend your energy on something else? Not that particular drug for this. But I really don't know what to say and why and whoever suggested that. I don't even know. It's right. You do. You give it to horse for worms. You see that a lot with veterinarians. I mean, they use it a lot. So I'm not, and I think that they initially were probably the ones who kind of started that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, all right. I'm not sure I would go to you for anything else. And so why you would be suggesting that, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't get my last general physical from my veterinarian, unfortunately.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's just hard to get a new pet these days. I just think I'd stay out. But then, so I want to get back to long COVID. I actually have a very, very good friend with long COVID, and she's suffering. She is suffering hardcore, and, you know, all these things that are happening to her are horrendous. And then the doctor wants to give her an antidepressant because she's sad because she's sick, which I think is fair. I mean, everybody wants to be living their best life, not on the couch,
Right.
but like living life. So have you heard of any studies, any treatments? What is out there for these people that are literally suffering?
And so those people that have long COVID, which means that they are having symptoms that have lingered, right? after having COVID. The issue with that is not everybody has the same symptoms.
Right.
So, you know, it's very difficult to say, I'm just going to study long COVID and study the symptom of their cough, or I'm going to study, you know, the symptom that they've had in a continuous headache now. It's very difficult because not everybody has the same symptoms. So at this point, what they have to do is they have to treat each individual and treat that symptom or symptoms that they're suffering from, because there isn't a way for us to say, or I don't think that there's a way for them to say, okay, we have this many or this number of people that we're going to study. And unless they're able to take that study, that group of people, and say, tell me what your lingering symptoms are. Is it, you know, a cough? How often do you cough? Because it's so many factors that would come, you know, into play for them to be able to say, okay, well, this might work for you. So at this point, it's like we have to treat you individually. And unfortunately, there are some people that have those lingering side effects. Like I think I may have mentioned before, one of my friends who's a nurse educator in Texas, she's an avid runner, right? She ran marathons, and now she cannot because she did contract COVID, and it's just very hard for her to breathe. So now she just does more of weight training to try to get her stamina back up. But we don't know. I mean, she doesn't know if she'll ever be able to run again.
Wow.
But so if the root of, if this particular illness causes a series of breakdowns in the system, or maybe it's not a breakdown, maybe it's an upregulation, then rather than treating the independent symptoms, wouldn't it make sense to treat the upregulation, whatever pathways or directions that upregulation comes from? So if let's say it's a cardiorespiratory system issue, whatever it is that's ramped that up, is there a way to treat that, or do they not look at it that way? Are they just kind of treating, like, that to me is ridiculous. That, like, I feel like we've been in this long enough for the medical establishment to start looking at some of these things, because it's one thing to leave the people who've decided, you know, they've made their decision, their health, their rights, their bodies, whatever, they're not going to do it, and that's okay. But when I think about the fact that first responders, medical practitioners have gotten this, and they've been kind of just lots of luck, Skippy. You're not going to get any better here because we don't have time for you. That really aggravates me. It upsets me, and it makes me think, well, man, who wants to go into medicine 25 years from now when knowing that a whole entire swath of people who put their lives on the line were discarded?
Yeah. And you know what, Misty, with that is that because they are still trying to treat active COVID, you know, and you think right when we think that it's going down and we are seeing the end to this, what do we have now, right? We're back at the same spot we were a year ago when we first started. Our numbers are back up in our hospitals, right to the same point when we initially started COVID a year ago.
And the flu on top of it.
And the flu season exactly is on top of it at the same time. So it's almost to the point where when they even are probably able to take a step back and say, let's study this to see what's happening. As you know, there are some companies that are going to be coming out with some pills that's supposed to help prevent COVID and things of that nature that they're, you know, trying to bring to the market. And they may have started studying these symptoms and, you know, some of the things that occur when you get COVID, but we keep getting knocked back down, right? We continue to get knocked back down. And it's like, are we ever going to win? And the same way that people are tired of it and are like, guys, you got to come up with something else. We're tired. We're probably even more tired, right?
Sure.
Seeing it or dealing with it, or like, hey, you could have prevented this if you would have just got vaccinated. You probably wouldn't have been in the hospital. You probably may have contracted it. But what's happening as well too is people that get vaccinated, they're now thinking I'm safe.
Yeah.
I don't really need to wear my mask. I'm vaccinated. What more do you want me to do? You're asking too much, right?
Yeah. And I also kind of think that, these pills that are coming out, because I've been reading a little bit about that, I actually think that's probably going to land a lot better with people than the vaccinations. One, because it's not a shot. Americans in particular really love pills. And, at the same time, it's like, they came up with these, if you want to think of something coming up fast, that's these pills. It's way faster than mRNA. And then you've got, anytime there's a new pill that comes up, try Trivestoneradura. The symptoms are spontaneous anal bleaching,
right?
Cardiac
falls
arrest,
off. Yeah,
your liver falls out, and you start quacking like a duck.
And people just watch it and say, "Wow, okay, that sounds good." Though you only have to take one, and it's like,
I like ducks, It's
okay.
Yeah,
I think my favorite in the promos is don't take fill in the blank new drug if you're allergic to its contents. And I'm like,
how do you know if you're allergic to the
I'm like,
contents?
or just it. Don't take Trivestoneradura if you're allergic to Trivestoneradura. Well, I mean,
Misty,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to come out with a drug now.
Trivestoneradura. but or
I want credit,
any of the ingredients or ingredients related to, or and you're just like, wow.
Right. I mean, we're just not giving the scientists the time to even be able to stop, because to stop and actually research and do the research and do it, because every time they get to that point, we have a new variant. Now you want me to come up with a vaccine or the next batch of vaccines that could, help with that variant. So, okay, so you want me to stop looking at this and move over to figuring out the new variant that's came out because people still refuse to get vaccinated. Okay, not a problem. That's priority.
How interesting is that? Because we can think that happens because that's how life kind of is, right? We've all been in that situation. Oh, we really have to stop doing this thing because this thing commands more attention. But it's just a really interesting perspective to hear it said that's going on. That is the process. Rinse, wash, repeat again. Oh, wait, no, go over here. Because again, the whole lot of this is really about something running downhill because nobody wants to get, or enough people don't want to get vaccinated.
Yeah. And then it becomes priorities for us, right? What's our priority? Do we let the people stay in the hospital, get sick and die? Or do we research, those that have already had COVID to figure out how to better their symptoms or so forth? So, we're caught both ways. It's almost impossible. And now we're at, not only that, then we have a work shortage.
Right.
We can't even get people to work.
Right.
I mean, my company has increased. If I see another pay increase come over and it doesn't go to my check, I don't know what I'm gonna do. We have seen so many pay increases that has not flowed to mine yet, just to try and recruit people to get people in.
Yeah. So they're boosting people. They're boosting pay for people to get in, and then the people who are already there, you're just like,
which is completely ridiculous in and of itself. Hey, I just want to pop in real quick. We've had a few comments. So Pilates Carrie says, have a new client who had a blood clot that went to heart after he got COVID. Came to me because of back pain that has stayed with him for months. Which I think that's what happens with clots, which is, this whole clotting thing, that's the scariest thing to me. Sissy says our healthcare system is very fragile. That's so polite. That's a really nice F word.
Fragile.
Yes, we are.
And yes, it's almost 2 years. I mean, really, it's been 2 years. It's just nobody started talking about it until about now, 2 years ago. Danielle says exactly, this is overwhelming the health system. how do they have time to get to the root of the problem when we keep having these
Yep.
upsurges or sneezing? If we didn't have these people that refuse to mask up and get vaxxed, yeah, I mean, we cannot have everything. And at this
Yep.
point, we can't even have nice things because we demand it all. We want body autonomy.
Yep.
We want to see our children's faces smiling.
Yes.
We don't want to get a shot, but we want to be able to go on a cruise line and lick the handrails with 1,800 other people. That's right. We want to do it all.
We want to go
all
on
of
the
it.
cruise
And we
and
want a pill to
serve
make
off
it
the
better.
buffet with our hands.
But we want
Yep.
the pill to be 85 years old. It can't be a new pill, even though it's a novel virus. It's got to be an old pill. You know,
Right.
At some point, it just speaks to the immaturity of our society. To me.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and it continues. Once again, like I said, it's all about them. What works for them at the time, and what do they need for them at the time? You know, and if it doesn't benefit them, then they just refuse to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I need to get back to the research because I'm so interested in the research. Because, you know, as a Pharm.D and a JD and an HIJK elemental P, because you've got so many letters, I feel like I just want to include all of them.
There's a tone when she says jurisprudence.
Well, I mean,
That was hard work.
I couldn't get that on Google. I tried. They were like, no.
They just gave you the jurist.
Yeah.
They didn't give you the prudence.
No, my computer froze. I had to reload, and then what happened? But you know, we have so much money in pharma, right? And
Oh yeah,
we
Big
contribute to pharma whether we want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think some of this could be solved or at least mitigated if they were required to work together, like put this particular team on this and this team on this? Like right now, it just seems so stratified and everybody's looking for the next thing. And I understand that that's what happens when you have privatized everything.
Right.
But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I feel like to come up with this vaccine protocol so quickly, people had to come together. These companies had to work together. As a person with many, many letters, what are your thoughts on this? Is this something that can never be because there's no skin in the game, or maybe too much skin in the game for these pharma companies? They don't want to go out on a limb.
Nope, that's not it. What benefit is it to the pharma company if they come up and solve solve this, right? What benefit is it? It's no
like
benefit
anything
to them,
else,
right?
like diabetes, or as Wilford Brimley would say, diabetes.
Right, but they make it right. But see, Big Pharma makes their money by making sure that you take medication, right?
It's
and
disgusting.
continue.
It's disgusting.
They make their money by making sure you take medication.
I know that,
So
but
why would we come up with a cure?
you're
Right?
giving me hives.
I don't care what anybody says. You cannot
I'm
tell me
sure
that
there's
there
a
isn't
pill
cure
for
for
that,
AIDS
Misty.
after all of this time, right? but there is no benefit. And
I know.
Right?
But when I think about 800,000 dead, when I just, again, this comes down to, Glenn and I had a big talk last night because I was really tweaked about Sandy Hook. And I was reading something that one of the Sandy Hook moms said. And, you know, the whole idea of a moral failing, it's even bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like healthcare in this country is that vast of a moral failing as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're willing to let your most vulnerable people die. I'm not talking about the dumb ones. I'm talking about the people that really have had no choices here. You're willing to let them die because you can make more money if you can just keep extending their illness. It's gross to me.
Yeah, and it goes back to the strongest survive, right? And they sacrifice the weak. and that's what they do, and that's what happens, because they will never put out the cure. You have to know that at some point their scientists have the cure, right? For this.
100%.
But but it is not going to put money in their pockets if they provide it, because now if we cure diabetes, I mean, how many pharma companies are going to go broke, right? I mean, it doesn't benefit them. So of course they're going to not get together and come together to make it right. No, absolutely not. Nope. To them, 800,000 people is a small sacrifice.
But that's no different, Misty. I mean, that's no different than ketchup being considered a vegetable. That's no different than the sheer number of chemicals that are allowed in our food chain, in our, in our
100%.
food.
I think they're in cahoots.
It's no different than any of the things that just very blatantly say American people, we don't really give two poops.
Okay, what Sissy just typed made my armpit sweat because it makes
Yep.
me so angry. Sissy just said the
That's
ones
true.
with the best health insurance survive. And but I will challenge that, because I had a client, lovely person, had all the money in the world, breast cancer, recurrence. This is back when the Gamma knife was brand new. She actually paid out of pocket for it. Like, she had that kind of money. She didn't make it, sacrificed, I don't even think it's the best health insurance survive. I mean, I'm not a big
It's
believer
access
in
though.
It's access. 100%.
Yes, it's access.
It's even having access to health insurance, period. Any health insurance.
Yeah.
You're
Absolutely.
already a step up on the hierarchy. And then, it just keeps going and keeps going. But really, the people at the very top, they don't even need health insurance because they can pay for it out of pocket.
Yeah,
right.
They can pay for it.
Need it.
And it's still some truth to it, because they have the best insurance. They have the money if insurance doesn't cover it for them. And then they have access, of which most of us, most people do not have all of that. Right. And so they can't go to the best hospital to get care, because you better believe that when we had people that were on ventilators everywhere, who do you think they put on those ventilators first that probably cost them to be on it $100,000 a day?
It was Cadillac coverage, for sure.
It was Cadillac coverages, right? The rest of you, we're going to give you something and hope your family can pump the bag for you, right?
Oh, damn.
I mean, hey, right. Hopefully they can pump the bag for you, right? Because they're going to get paid. They're going to get reimbursed from the insurance, because they have the insurance. They have access to be able to get it. But the rest of them, a lot of them didn't make it. I mean, the real statistic that we want to see is what was the statistic in regards to those that died, of that 800,000? What was their income, right? What did they? Who had insurance? Who didn't have insurance? Let's take a look at that. I don't just
never tell us those numbers,
right? They'll never tell you those details.
Yeah, that's
never.
The truth.
They'll never tell you that.
That's the truth.
Well, we know. I mean, we did hear stories here and there about certain neighborhoods, certain communities, and they were just like whether they were undocumented and they weren't going, whether they're just communities that have a fear of the healthcare system, or whether you're just asking someone to make that choice, right? You're the only breadwinner in your home, or the two of you have to be essential workers, which is just another term for slave labor at this point. I think it's just such a gross term, an essential worker. But we know that, we saw that, all of that was seen. People everywhere saw it. I mean, that would be the same as when you've had your mask on so long as a healthcare worker that it leaves an imprint in your face.
Yep.
And we're still having, first we couldn't get the PPE, And then we're still having discussions and conversations about wearing masks. But at the end of the day, all of this is the American people. It's dog eat dog. There is a hierarchy, and
everybody thinks it won't happen to them.
Yeah.
everybody thinks it won't happen to them.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, we might as well build caste systems over here.
Might as well. It's already built. It's just people like this. I don't see it. I don't see it.
We might as well just spell it out and make it visible now.
Yeah.
Right? We already know it exists, but let's just make it visible and call it for what it is. Let's not hide the truth anymore and call it for what it is.
And, at the end of the day, to some extent, people have to stand up. People have to really, at the end of the day, people have to realize they're coming for you. The line of people that they've been coming for is running out. And then they came for me. People have to start realizing that we can go back to the beginning of this conversation, the entitled youth, because that travels into other areas, whether they don't want to stand in line. Well, they don't have to stand in line. Or whether their name or their clout or their money allows them to, they could be experiencing rather minor symptoms, but they feel like their symptoms warrant them a bed in a hospital.
Yeah.
It's not even about getting to the ventilator. Sometimes it's just, we've heard this, people riding to the hospital and taking Uber or Lyft because they know eventually that bill for that ambulance, that $800 bill for the ambulance, is going to show up on their door at some point.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. And now that's privatized. So the ambulance that shows up literally might be like,
oh, you have a Louis Vuitton bag with you. It's $1,500.
Or I see you're having trouble breathing, but can you show me your
insurance card? But it happens.
Right.
I mean, how many people, again, we talk about this all the time, how many people in this country are ruined by healthcare expenses? I mean, the number is so high at this point, and it's only going to get higher with people with long COVID, all the other things going on. The cancer rates are through the roof. Mental health is a disaster. So, I mean, it's a thing. You think it's bad now, you better buckle up, Buttercup, because it's going to get super messy.
I mean, and mental health is something, that a lot of people, sleep on a little bit, because right now you have mental health that is running rampant through our healthcare system because they're overworked, they're tired, they're, they're away from home, they're away from their families, 12, 13, 14-hour days that they're doing. And then you have, patients and people who are sick as well, that are having mental health, that long COVID, or they're upset because, they haven't got back to normal yet.
Right.
Or it's just a really long time to see that level of trauma.
Yeah.
That's just a really long time. And I know that different people, my mother was an oncology nurse, and so I get it. It's not like, everybody works in labor and delivery and, look at all the cute babies. But it's a long time to just look at trauma on a grand scale, where people are not taking it seriously.
No.
They don't want to wear, they are literally putting you in jeopardy. They're putting healthcare workers in jeopardy intentionally. And so it's not like this is a natural disaster or something. This is literally people's unwillingness to be a community is what's keeping healthcare workers in that position.
And it's ongoing.
Yeah,
it's ongoing. Yes.
And just the other day, we at one of our oncology clinics, we have it's a total of, I think, 5 on the pharmacy team there. 3 of them are out with COVID, right? So
Oh,
It is
wait, you
very
said 5.
unsafe
Oh,
for
wait, that's it.
two. Right. So what do we do for our oncology patients that show up? You have no one there to make the chemo for you now. You have no one, to pull the drugs for them. So what do you do now? Right. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I know today was your last oncology treatment or your first, but we're going to have to postpone it because, we had people come in and infected our staff and, or whatever. Or it could be the flip side that we have our staff out here just reckless as well, too, when they go home because they've worn a mask all day. So and now they're just like, I want to be free. We don't know, but it's affecting so many different people and so many lives. I would hate to be the one to tell our oncology patient, I'm sorry, I know you're here for your treatment today, but we're going to have to postpone it to after Christmas. Like, exactly. And it's like, come on, please. I mean, if you don't, and once again, it's just for selfish reasons. It's like, I need for you to put a mask on. Okay. I just need for you to do this. If you don't want to get vaccinated, I need you to wear a mask to bed, to the shower, to the gym, to Starbucks, because you're staying Starbucks, just to Starbucks, to the kitchen, just put the mask on.
And I think that, it's like I think back to when my mother was having chemo, and I remember at one point her T cell count dropped. So she'd maybe had like 1 or 2 treatments, and her T cell count dropped so low that for a month, every day, I had to take her in to get an infusion to boost her white blood count.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm trying to picture doing that in the time of COVID.
Yeah.
I think that would torpedo my personal mental health, because anytime I saw somebody without a mask, I'd want to run them over with my car. Like I'm not wrapped well enough to be able to handle that, especially when it's my loved one. I don't know. I think these workers in the medical field, including you, are seriously warriors and angels all at once, because I don't know how you can see the carnage every single day and still be able to smile without pulling that frying pan out from behind your back and whapping people upside the head.
I'm telling you, every time.
And I think that that's the thing, right? I think that that's the exponential domino effect that people don't really consider. And so here you're talking about, I know that other people know about cancer treatments and all of that, but it's a very visceral memory for me because I was the person who took my mother for 2 different cancers. And so it's a very visceral memory. And it was like, it was a planned regimen.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, oh, just as long as you get here this month, just schedule. No, it was planned. It was planned based on what the size of her tumor. And I mean, all of this was planned out. And so any bump in the road threw that schedule off,
mm-hmm.
Whether she was too weak or what, and so these are the casualties that people just aren't thinking about. So you walked in, or you went to this restaurant, or you went to this grocery store, and you just didn't want to wear your mask. And so now these pharmacologists, they can't go to work, and they can't go to work for X amount of time. Oh, that's right. There's a job shortage.
Yep.
And so now X number of people, because what is it? Aren't they mixing those? I mean, when my mom did it, and when she had radiation, so that was just, but when they were mixing her chemo, that's like a thing you have to do. You have to cook it. You have to prepare it.
I mean, it throws the schedule off. It has to throw the schedule off at least for a month,
absolutely,
maybe 2.
It absolutely does. And chemo isn't something that we just say, oh, I'm gonna prepare it a couple of days in advance. Right. No, because you got to get your labs, and if your labs aren't right, you may not have chemo, so we don't make it in advance, right? So it's like, I'm sorry, I know you went and got your labs drawn, but we really don't have anybody here. We're short. We only got 1 nurse, because 3 of the nurses were out as well. So we only have 1 nurse and 1 pharmacist and 1 tech. So we really have to push you back. I mean,
Yeah,
Guys, come on.
when my mom was getting her T-cell shot, because my mom was a nurse, and I was like, okay, she's a nurse. Can you just give us the stuff? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, can you show me how? And they were like, no. They're like, literally, we have to mix
It's
it when
hazardous.
she's here and
Yeah,
administer it. And I was like, so that's what I did every day for about a month. We just
yeah,
drove to the, oh, hey, how you guys doing? So that's the callousness of that is the callousness that I think, like, why are we like this? Why,
hmm
as the people, when did we get to just be about us? And the same people who don't want to follow the protocols, don't want to wear the mask, want their kids to run around and just be free, unmask the kids, they're the same ones who want the best and to be first in line when they
yep,
need treatment.
absolutely, absolutely.
Speaks volumes. So,
Yeah,
all right. So we know the big holidays are coming. And, everyone wants to have their family gathering of 75
yep,
people. And, the grandkids are coming and they're in school. Two of them are in preschool. Three of them are in high school. It's a big deal. We're trying to regain that sense of normalcy that we had in Christmas 2019 before the boogeyman was let out of the cedar chest. And what is it that we need to be considering when we bring our families together, realizing too, Tasha, because these schools are so damn brilliant, school lets out on the 23rd. Yeah, on the 23rd, that's next Thursday. People get together on the 24th and 25th. So it's not even like you can plan to quarantine, distance socially. You can't do any of those things right now. What recommendations do you have for families that are trying to, party like it's 2019?
yeah. Well, to me, if you have kids that cannot get vaccinated, you need to be safe and selective with who you allow, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are going to, have a 80, 90 gathering, I mean, literally, if you're going to have more than just your immediate household there,
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest you make sure that they're tested 24 hours beforehand. Right before they come. So my parents had made the decision, they decided they would not do Christmas here at my house because everybody says I'm mean and I have so many restrictions and so forth.
I like the way you think.
Okay. So my parents said that, a few more people wanted to come. And so I said, okay, that's fine, and the other day they called me and they said, well, we need you to get together and write this up for us because we have decided that people can come, but we need a negative COVID test 24 hours before they arrive. And I was like, wow. Oh, okay. And so sure enough, I write up what they, asked me to write up, and then they sent it out, to the guests. And everybody sent a message back and they were like, oh, this has your daughter written all over it. I know she wrote this. And I'm just thinking to myself, I had nothing to do with it, right? Like I didn't make that suggestion to them. But that is where the way that we're going. That would be my recommendation and suggestion, that you ask them to get a, rapid test 24 hours or immediately before they're about to be at your house.
Oh,
Because
Harmony. I'm sorry to interrupt, Tasha, but our friend Harmony says the window lickers will kill grandma instead of being run over this year. I mean, you can't have nice things either, Harmony. So, but wait, so that's just for people that are unvaxxed, or everyone's getting tested?
everybody,
I love it.
everybody. Yeah, because, even vaccinated, you can still,
Sure.
you can still, so that's for everybody now. And this is how I feel. And if you choose not to do it, then that means you just don't respect me, right?
Stay at home.
And that's selfish of you. Stay home.
Eat
Stay home
your
then,
TV
right?
dinners. You're not wanted here.
Stay home. Exactly. And so that's how, I guess my parents felt like we got to stay safe.
Right.
Right. Because at the end of the day, if they had to go to the hospital, am I handing their emergency room bill over to them or their ICU bill over to them? Because you decided to come and
Tasha, you
was
probably
infected.
would though.
I would. I would probably have them in court and say, you knowingly came and was infected, so you have to pay this bill.
100%. 100%. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, hey, so at this point, because you can still contract it, even vaccinated, you want to be safe. Whether they do a PCR 3 days before, which is even more, gives you more accurate versus, a rapid with, which takes 15 minutes. I would suggest that to be the case. Not just the fact that, they're vaccinated, but if you want to have such a large gathering, make that suggestion to them. And if they decide, oh, well, I'm not coming, then that lets you know that they just don't respect, how you feel about it and your safety. And they don't value your safety and your health.
Now, what if it's a smaller gathering? So like our friend Nikki here, she's already got like 15 people in her house. Let's say she wants to have,
yeah, she has a gathering of her own.
That's
already.
right. I mean, she already has people directing traffic just to get through the hallway. But, so what if it's you've got your integral family, but then you want to have like 5 or 6 people over. How does that work?
I mean, to me, I would still make the same suggestion.
I love it.
It's still the same suggestion to me that you get them tested. I think today I was running out to take my son to school as I was trying to watch Good Morning America, and I noticed that they were suggesting that people order the at-home test. So if guests want to come and they don't have it, you do the at-home test. Hey, we got at-home test for you. You didn't make it to get yours? Here you go. Before you, and otherwise be like, okay, if this comes out negative, we're going to walk you out the back door.
No, you're nice.
If it comes out positive, we're going to walk you out the back door. But if it's negative, you're good to flow.
See,
right?
As far as I'm concerned, they come, they pull into the driveway, you bring them some sweets, maybe a cup of coffee, and you give them their test. 15 minutes later, after it percolates, you keep on going.
That's even better.
If you're going to keep going, just please leave your mug on the steps so I can pick it up. But you leave. I'm not letting anybody in the house.
Exactly. I mean, and that's even better because I know my parents have indicated it has to be sent to them before you arrive. Like, don't arrive at their door and be like, oh, let me show it to you. No. You have to send it
they come and it's all busted up. It's like, oh, I got it. But if I read it, it's too difficult. I'm sorry, but I promise you it was good.
Right. And you notice that, oh my goodness, this looks like somebody else's name has been white out and put on.
This looks like the same number of the one that so-and-so texts me.
Right.
It's the same.
And why does it say July on it?
Like literally, it's the same. Hold on, let me scroll through my text messages.
Exactly.
This is the same number.
That gives us an opportunity to, look at it, or them an opportunity to look at it. I'm like, hey, I'll have I'll have mine and my kids and the macaroni. Hey.
So
we all
all
know
of
it's
the
the
rapid
macaroni.
tests the same, Tasha? Are they all equally efficacious?
Yeah, they're all equally the same. I mean, most of them, you're doing the little swab in the nose. They put it in a little liquid and, it's 15 minutes later, they can kind of give you most places now, if you drive up to those places, they're doing both anyway. Mm-hmm. They do a rapid and then they are doing a PCR, which you won't get till later, sometimes 24 to 48 hours after, because you do have some false negatives, right? And so PCR is by far the best way to determine if you have COVID or not. They're doing both. So we're just hoping that they
request this?
Correct.
So are you talking about Walgreens, CVS?
For rapid?
When you're saying that most places are doing both now anyway. So is this, please speak on this. Is this something that you can request if you go to the CVS? Can you ask for both?
So places like CVS and Walgreens, you have to pick one or the other. But
Okay.
you know, you have a lot of drive-up centers now that you can drive in or walk into. They're just automatically doing both. So they'll do the rapid and give it to you and then tell you, hey, we're going to do the PCR. We do both here. We're going to do the PCR, but we'll email it to you within 24 hours.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is this on to just Illinois, or do you feel like this is across?
I think it's almost everywhere now.
Okay.
It's about everywhere, because every other block where, you know, like Walgreens used to be on every other block, you now have these pop-up locations and centers where you can go and get rapid testing.
Okay. Because I was wondering about that. That's like an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Because it kind of gives you an immediacy, and then you get that
and then you get an accurate, and it's
right.
a lot faster than the Walgreens and CVS. I noticed that when I took my daughter to get my son to get one with CVS, the PCR, it took almost like 3 or 4 days to come back. And then I took my daughter to get like a rapid. It came back about 4 hours later versus, you know, the 15 minutes that you can drive up to these locations. They're not asking for your insurance or anything. So people have no excuse and no reason to say, oh, I can't get it. I couldn't find it. Really? There are 6. If you go down Roosevelt Road over here, Nikki, we have one right down by the what is that burger place called?
The burger
Wendy's.
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 Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
It's one. It's a whole building that they have there, and they're just waiting.
See, get tested, get some lunch.
Yep. Get some lunch while you wait.
That's right.
Now, are there any, because so that's kind of like a hybrid test, which is awesome. Are there any hybrid testing vaccination sites?
There are still hybrid testing vaccination sites as well too. And those will just depend from day to day if they have vaccine, but most of their states, each of the states have you can find it. Like we have Vaccine Finder, and I think that's in every state now. It's called Vaccine Finder. You can go on there, put your zip code, and it'll tell you who's giving vaccines in your area, whether it's Moderna, whether it's Pfizer or J&J.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know, guys. Tasha, we love you. We've got a few more minutes. We've got Brian started at the beginning with good information, exclamation point. Does anyone have any questions for Tasha?
Please share if you do. I mean, I just, these are the questions that, you wish you had contact with somebody in the medical world that you could ask, but you don't. And, if you maybe know someone on Facebook, they're not talking anymore. They're in the corner weeping and sobbing. So, we have Tasha here because, the big holiday is coming and we wanted people to feel safe, but we also just love having Tasha on the show.
I love you guys.
I mean, like, seriously.
No, I think all of that information about even just which vaccines, this is who they're recommending the 3rd dose for. I mean, it's just this unfiltered information that allows you to make informed choices for yourself, for your family, and it's good,
Yeah, and it's all out there. That's why when people say, "Oh, it's just not enough information," really, where have you been? Because
Google doesn't work in their house.
Because my eyes are tired of reading it, right? Like I'm tired of seeing it and reading it. So where are you looking?
Seriously, since we've been on, there have been 7 articles about COVID that have popped up on my screen.
Yeah.
7. I mean,
it's constantly updating. So I'm just like, well, where are you looking? I mean, it's probably not going to be on YouTube. So where are you looking?
I mean, but with the demon sex lady, she's on YouTube. I'm just saying, because she has her opinion about vaccine. But, I think the other thing too is, again, confirmation bias is a thing. And a lot of people who couldn't get what they wanted to hear just stopped looking. And
exactly.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Bias is bias, and we have to be really, really honest about looking at something objectively, looking at something in the hopes of being right. Because that kind of decision could cost somebody their life.
Mhm.
or at least their livelihood or something. You know, we're not playing tiddlywinks. We're playing with a virus.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's not about spreading fear or, you know, whatever. It's 100% about having the information you need to make a decision that's going to keep you and your community safe.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're exactly right. If they don't find the information that goes with their opinion, then they don't want to see anything else. They don't want to hear anything else. And majority of the information is against what they're trying to say. You know, oh, it's not safe. It's not this. It's not that. So, you know, I'm just not going to look anymore. Absolutely. That's what happens. That's what occurs.
Ooh, wait. Can you please say something? And I know Aaron Groth was here earlier, Dr. Aaron Groth. You guys can both talk about this all day, but the idea of a study and why it's so important that a study is peer reviewed versus, like, you know, my cat and I are here and we're just doing a study on our own, and, you know, somebody's going to like it somewhere. Because a lot of the dissent is, you know, I read a study and it was by this Dr. Houghton-Faust, and Dr. Houghton-Faust is known by 7 people, and, you know, he's really smart somewhere. I mean, he talked about something in Botswana. You know what?
Are they the makers of your Verdia?
Right.
Yes, they are the makers of the new drug that I just made up. But, you know, we're not talking about that right now because I want to make sure I get credit for the name. I'm just saying.
Right.
Can you just explain a little bit about the process of studies and what it takes to make a study valid, and how a study that's only looked at 24 people can be decent versus a study that's looking at a large amount of people but not, just so people understand how that process works?
Yeah. So depending on what it is in research, you either have a large scale study or a smaller scale study. Now, keeping in mind that depending on what it is that you're researching, you may only have a small number because, you know, we have orphan diseases that are out there. So you may only have a small number of people that may have that. But that doesn't go to say that it isn't a valid study. Okay. But you can't just say, oh, you know, Nikki and Misty came up with a study, and, you know, and it's like,
why not?
Oh, you could if the study was about, like, Pilates, right? Because that's where peer review comes in. Because peer review is where you have one or more people with similar competencies, right? That's the key word there. They have to have similar competencies.
Dang. Let me Google that real quick.
Right. As similar competencies as the producer of the work. So if I am a medical doctor, I don't think that I'm going to go and ask my chiropractor to review it.
Oh, come on now. Why not?
No, I can't, because they don't have similar competencies. Chiropractors don't even write prescriptions. They're not even authorized to, right? Because they're more of a natural type of healing. So I can't ask them to peer review it, but I can ask other medical doctors that study oncology to peer review it. Okay, which kind of adds some credibility to it at that point. So you got to keep in mind, it has to be a similar competency for it. Now, that the number of people within that study all depends on what you're studying. We'd like to see a higher number, because then, you know, not everybody reacts the same way, and that gives us the variations that could occur from what they're studying. If we have a smaller scale, the chances are that majority of them have the same side effect or the same thing. It's very, very, very much going to be the case. But we can see it on a larger scale when we have a larger number of people. But it all depends on what we're studying. Will depend on if we want to see it, because you're always going to find somebody that will go find a small study that was done in the backwoods of, it always seems to be the UK. the backwoods of the UK. They had 4 people, which was their auntie, their grandma, their niece, and their nephew. And it showed that COVID vaccines are bad for you.
Well, and that's exactly why I wanted to talk about this. I meant to do it earlier, but I forgot. I mean, because, you see this. You see, well, you know what? Dr. Haltenfaust, I mean, he did this study, and even though he studies, he is a doctor of anthropology, he's decided that COVID is bad, but COVID is not as bad as the vaccine. And then he talked to his friends, the guy that works at the 7-Eleven,
right,
his auntie, like you said, and
but they
another
had
doctor
similar
who studies toe
competencies.
jam.
yeah,
And this is a concern, because once again, getting back to that confirmation bias piece. So I just wanted the woman with so many letters after her name that they have to add an attachment to the business card. I wanted her, or they can shrink them down to like 2-point font, but that's a different story.
No, they have
So
digital
we
ones
can't
now.
read that
so
anyway.
she
That just looks like
she
scribble.
can just airdrop it to you.
That's right. That's like just bump. But I wanted people to hear you saying that, because I think that's a really, really important factor in this misinformation vomit that we see all the time, is that, well, they did a study. Well, who did a study?
right.
So,
I mean, you want to do studies, always try to find one from the New England Journal of Medicine. Let's just start there. And if they don't have a study on it, then you might want to question the other studies.
Yes.
So we're looking for a credible source to find the study. And the study should include colleagues of very close, similar backgrounds.
Correct.
With very close and similar competencies.
Correct.
So there's
Absolutely.
a criteria.
There's a criteria
for said people conducting and reviewing the studies.
Correct. Absolutely. And
So
and they will provide all of that information to you. When you look at a study, it tells you, Dr. Joseph Chower, MD, JD, HHAJ, JKPY, and you're like, oh, wow.
WXYZ.
Okay. You're right.
JKPY is my favorite kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Half of the people reviewing the study probably shouldn't have the same last name.
Oh, no. I mean, not unless by happenstance. They had a common last name, like Williams or Johnson.
Right, but one of them, if you look them up more closely, they shouldn't have a birth date beginning with 2000.
Oh.
and so. Right. Okay.
Well, they just were able to start drinking, so not quite sure they've gone through, unless they're like,
Doogie
a
Howser
genius of some sort. Right. More than likely, they probably don't have the skill, if they were born in the 2000s, to be able to do that study, and it be, unless they were a helper, let's say an intern or something that was working alongside one of those doctors.
And it's like, it feels like it's a common sense question, but your answer was really interesting, because there's just that special thing, similar competencies. I feel like that should be a t-shirt. Similar competence. And it's like, you could just insert that in so many places.
Yeah.
Hey, where did you get your information? Was it a valid source of professionals with similar competency?
Absolutely. Otherwise, have a seat.
Right.
Because there's this assumption, right, that when someone does a study, that they are actually educated in that
subject
field.
Matter experts.
Right.
That's what you expect. Subject matter experts.
Mm-hmm.
Other than just their grandmother who thinks, you hung the moon, but that they're educated, that they work with reputable people in the field who I just love that phrase, similar
Or that they have a
competencies.
job. They have a
Well,
job in the field, right?
And they didn't lose their license due to
Right.
X that we don't talk
Right,
about.
exactly.
You know, that was
Due
one of my
to-
things at the
due to
beginning of
a-
all this. Is
Due to a
people would
lack of
send me
competency.
people would send me a lot of
Lost-
stuff, and they'd say, "Well, what do you think?" And I would say, "Okay, you have a veterinarian, a chiropractor, an otolaryngologist, and a pianist. And why do I care?" Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Oh, did they get COVID and they just wanted to tell their story? Because that's the only way that I can look at that as a study, that you wanted to tell your story. But is this published? Is it even published?
I mean, on Google, yes.
And you know what a great
that becomes
reference.
a thesis then.
What was the journal? The Journal of is
the
it
New
JAMA?
England Journal of Medicine.
Journal of Medicine. New England Journal of Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So not Real Housewives.
Pilates Carrie says, Dr. Oz said, take and use this because they pay me to say it. And it's great.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, but again, it seems like a very logical thing that well, yes, if it's a study, then someone educated in that field who has reached expert status, not because they have assigned themselves as expert status, but because of their experience and because of their colleagues who say, this is a highly reputable person. And then they got some more friends, like the Breck commercial. Yes, I'm old. And they're all of similar competencies. And this is why this study has validity. You think it's common sense, but just the way you broke that down, we just love us some Miss Tasha.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, I drink water, so I'm an expert in water treatment. Like,
right.
I mean, it seems so basic, and yet here we are. So thank you for clearing that up for all of us, any of us. And Tasha, thank you so much for just, you know, never holding back. I don't even think you know how to, which is why I
try.
That is exactly why because I'm like, she speaks my language of no filter. I love it.
You know,
I try.
It's a beautiful thing. And I'm so glad I'm on this side of being friends with her.
I mean, I would not want to be on the other side.
So many times.
I mean, really quick, because this is what it's like to be friends with her as a mom. You know, our kids took these standardized tests, and it's like, I just don't care. It's like my kids took standardized tests in freaking 7th grade in the middle of a pandemic. And so then they send off these emails, like they're just like, oh, yes, and this, you know, we're going to use these as part of the criteria to put together their high school course loads. And I was just like, oh, damn. And Tasha was like, yeah, I've got a meeting on Monday. And I was like, oh, thank God. And I was like, can I just get the clip notes? Please don't make me go up to that.
Yep.
And it's just, you know, it's so refreshing that it's fun, and it's like it's just so refreshing to have another human being who just gets it, and you don't have to explain it, and she knows when something is impactful and when something is not impactful, and it's just like, you know, yes, she's a really cool person, and we love having you on the show because I think
you guys.
Yeah,
I
think that
you
disseminate information in a way that is very palatable, not off-putting, and I think it's important information, and it comes, you know, the way that your delivery is on point, it's great, and I think it's well received. So thank you very much.
It's so important for people to feel like their medical personnel is relatable.
Yeah.
You know, you don't come in like many letters, and I will only allow you to hear 2 of them. You know, that's not you. So
because
Tasha,
we don't have similar competencies. We don't have
our competencies are misaligned. Better luck next time. You don't get to read the Journal of the American Medical Association or whatever you say. You
New
get
England,
your
the New
information
England
out
Journal
of
of
the Journal of
Medicine.
People.
Yes, I had JAMA in
Right.
my head. Yes, the New
Oh my
England.
God.
Yes, New England, not
The
JAMA.
New England
Yes.
Journal of
So-
Medicine.
That's a good, credible one too.
That's
good.
not the one she said, right? That was like second street. That was the B. That was the B group.
Aw, B group. So sad. Well, again, Tasha, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
here
so
with
much.
us
Thank you, ladies. I
tonight.
appreciate it.
Your information, I am sure people were taking mental notes and maybe even paper notes too. Danielle, thank you so much. We appreciate having you. All
Thank
of you
you.
who have been here with
Yes.
us.
Awesome.
P.S. We are not off next week, are we? Yeah, so there's another ThoughtFlow next week, guys.
All
and
right.
It's on Xmas Eve. So join us if you can. Looking forward to more fabulousness with you, Tasha, in the new year. You know you're coming back.
You can wear your ugly Christmas mask.
You know what? I'm sticking with this mask, okay? Because,
Right. Hey,
you know,
it's what they do. Yes, exactly.
I feel like this should protect me from something.
That's how they be in the Marianos. That's how they be.
This is not acceptable.
Or they just wear a turtleneck.
That's right.
You can't spread anything that way,
No.
Misty. I mean,
because
not
it's
at
a
all.
paper towel. It's bounty. It's absorbent.
Right. It's a quicker picker upper.
That's
right. So
you went there. All right. We got the Love Fest has gotta end. Thank you so much. We will see you next time. Everybody, thank you. See you next week, Friday next week. 1:30 p.m. East Coast.
12:30.
If you need Tasha to explain her letters to you once again, if you're in the Midwest. Good night, everybody, and have a happy weekend. Stay safe.
Bye, guys.
bye.